Marcus Williams opened his eyes at 6 a.m., just like every other weekday morning. The alarm clock on his nightstand had not even gone off yet. After 15 years of teaching, his body knew when it was time to wake up. He stretched his arms and looked out the window. The sun was just starting to come up over the city. Marcus got out of bed and walked to the bathroom. He brushed his teeth and looked at himself in the mirror. At 42 years old, he still looked young and strong. His wife Sarah always told him he looked handsome in his work clothes. She was still sleeping in their bed. Marcus tried to be quiet so he would not wake her up. He went to the kitchen and made a cup of coffee. The smell filled the small house. Marcus loved this quiet time in the morning. It helped him think about the day ahead. Today was going to be special. His third grade class was going to start reading a new book together. The kids had been excited about it all week. Marcus put on his favorite blue shirt and dark pants. He always dressed nicely for work. He believed that looking professional was important. It showed the children that school was a serious place where learning happened. He picked up his brown leather briefcase from the table. Inside were the lesson plans he had worked on the night before. Before leaving the house, Marcus kissed his sleeping wife on the forehead. He wrote a small note and left it on the kitchen counter. The note said, "Have a great day, love you." He did this every morning. Sarah would smile when she found it later. Marcus walked outside to his car. It was a 10-year-old Honda that he took good care of. The car was not fancy, but it was reliable. He had bought it used when he first started teaching. Back then, teachers did not make much money. Even now, after 15 years, Marcus was not rich. But he loved his job more than anything. The drive to Lincoln Elementary School took 20 minutes. Marcus liked to arrive early, usually around 7:15 a.m. This gave him time to prepare his classroom before the other teachers arrived. He could organize his materials and think about each lesson. The school day officially started at 8:30 a.m., but Marcus always wanted to be ready. As he drove through the neighborhood, Marcus saw people starting their day. A man was walking his dog. A woman was getting her newspaper from the front yard. These were the families of his students. Marcus knew this community well. He had grown up just a few miles away. Many of the parents had been his classmates in high school. Marcus pulled into the school parking lot. Lincoln Elementary was a small brick building that was about 30 years old. It was not the newest school in the district, but it was well maintained. The principal, Mrs. Martinez, made sure everything was clean and safe. Marcus parked in his usual spot near the main entrance. He grabbed his briefcase and got out of the car. The morning air was cool and fresh. Marcus took a deep breath and smiled. He loved this feeling of starting a new day with his students. Even after all these years, he still felt excited about teaching. Mrs. Johnson, the crossing guard, was setting up her stop sign at the corner. She waved at Marcus and called out, "Good morning, Mr. Williams." Marcus waved back and said, "Good morning, Mrs. Johnson." "Beautiful day, isn't it?" Mrs. Johnson had been working at the school for almost as long as Marcus had been teaching there. They were good friends. Marcus walked toward the main entrance of the school. His keys jingled in his pocket. He had keys to his classroom, the supply closet, and the main building. The principal trusted him with these keys because he was a reliable teacher. Marcus never lost his keys or forgot to lock up when he left. As he walked through the hallway, Marcus could smell the cleaning supplies the janitors had used the night before. The floors were shiny and clean. The walls were covered with student artwork and posters about reading and math. Marcus always felt proud when he walked through these halls. This was more than just his workplace. This was his second home. Marcus reached his classroom door. Room 15 was painted bright yellow on the outside. Inside, the walls were covered with colorful posters and student work. There were reading charts, math games, and pictures of famous people who had made a difference in the world. Marcus had spent many hours making his classroom a place where children would want to learn. He unlocked the door and turned on the lights. The classroom looked perfect. 25 small desks were arranged in groups of 4. Each desk had a name tag with a student's name written in colorful letters. On the teacher's desk were the papers Marcus needed to return to his students. He had graded them the night before. Marcus set his briefcase down and began his morning routine. First, he wrote the date on the whiteboard. Then he wrote the daily schedule so the children would know what to expect. Today they would have math, reading, science, and art. Marcus loved teaching all subjects, but reading was his favorite. He walked around the classroom, checking that everything was in its place. The pencil sharpener had enough pencils. The reading corner had soft pillows for the children to sit on. The science table had materials for today's experiment about plants. Marcus wanted everything to be perfect for his students. At 7:30 a.m., Marcus heard a car door slam in the parking lot. Soon other teachers would start arriving. Ms. Peterson taught 4th grade in the room next door. Mr. Davis taught 2nd grade down the hall. They were all good friends who worked well together. They often ate lunch together and shared ideas about teaching. Marcus looked at the clock on the wall. In 1 hour, 25 excited 3rd graders would run into his classroom. They would tell him about what they did the night before. They would ask questions about everything. They would laugh and learn and grow. This was what Marcus lived for. He opened his briefcase and took out his lesson plans. Everything was organized and ready. Marcus had learned over the years that good preparation made good teaching. He never wanted to waste even 1 minute of his students' time. These children deserved his best effort every single day. Marcus walked to the window and looked out at the empty playground. In a few hours, it would be full of children playing and having fun. He could almost hear their laughter already. This was going to be another wonderful day at Lincoln Elementary School. Marcus was ready to make it happen. Officer Bradley Thompson was driving his police car through the school zone when he saw something that caught his attention. It was 7:45 a.m. and most people were just starting their day. Thompson had been a police officer for 8 years. He worked the morning shift, which meant he patrolled the neighborhoods when people were going to work and children were getting ready for school. Thompson was a tall man with short brown hair and a serious face. He rarely smiled and always looked like he was expecting trouble. Some people in the community thought he was too strict. Others said he was just doing his job. Thompson believed that being tough was the only way to keep people safe. As Thompson drove past Lincoln Elementary School, he noticed a black man walking toward the main entrance. The man was carrying a briefcase and wearing nice clothes. But something about the situation made Thompson feel suspicious. Why was this man at the school so early? Thompson had never seen him before. In Thompson's mind, anyone he did not recognize was a potential problem. Thompson slowed down his police car and watched the man. The man took out some keys and unlocked the front door of the school. This made Thompson even more suspicious. How did this man have keys to the school? Thompson decided he needed to investigate. He parked his car and got out. Marcus had just opened the door to the school when he heard footsteps behind him. He turned around and saw a police officer walking toward him. Marcus smiled and nodded politely. He was not worried because he had done nothing wrong. Marcus thought the officer was probably just making his regular patrol of the school area. "Excuse me," Thompson said in a loud voice. "I need to talk to you." Marcus stopped and turned around completely. "Good morning, officer," he said with a friendly smile. "How can I help you?" Thompson looked Marcus up and down with suspicious eyes. "What are you doing here?" he asked. "I work here," Marcus replied calmly. "I'm a teacher. I was just opening my classroom to get ready for the day." Thompson did not believe what Marcus was saying. In his experience, criminals often lied about who they were. "Let me see some identification," Thompson demanded. Marcus was a little surprised by the officer's tone, but he remained polite. He reached into his pocket and pulled out his wallet. Inside was his driver's license and his school identification card. The school ID had his picture on it and clearly said, "Lincoln Elementary School teacher." Marcus handed both cards to Thompson. "Here you go, officer. As you can see, I'm Marcus Williams. I teach 3rd grade here." Thompson looked at the identification cards but was still not satisfied. "Anyone can fake these," he said. "How do I know you didn't steal them?" Marcus could not believe what he was hearing. The school ID clearly showed his picture. His driver's license had the same information. What more proof did the officer need? "Officer, I've been teaching here for 15 years, Marcus explained patiently. "You can call the principal if you want to verify that I work here." "Don't tell me what I can and can't do," Thompson snapped. "I'm asking the questions here." Marcus began to feel uncomfortable. He had never been treated this way before. He wondered why the officer was being so hostile. Marcus had always respected police officers and taught his students to do the same. But this situation felt very wrong. "Officer, I'm not sure what the problem is," Marcus said. "I've shown you my identification. I have keys to the building because I work here. Is there something specific you're concerned about?" Thompson stepped closer to Marcus. "I'm concerned about suspicious people hanging around schools," he said. "How do I know you're not here to hurt children?" Marcus felt his heart start beating faster. This was a very serious accusation. "Officer, that's completely false," Marcus said, trying to stay calm. "I would never hurt a child. I'm a teacher. I dedicate my life to helping children learn and grow." "That's what they all say," Thompson replied. "I've heard these stories before." At that moment, Ms. Peterson arrived at the school. She was Marcus's colleague who taught 4th grade. When she saw Marcus talking to a police officer, she became concerned. She parked her car quickly and walked over to them. "Good morning, Marcus," Ms. Peterson said. "Is everything okay?" "Good morning, Janet," Marcus replied. "This officer is asking about my identification." Ms. Peterson looked confused. "Officer, Mr. Williams is one of our best teachers," she explained. "He's been working here for 15 years. All the children love him." Thompson turned to Ms. Peterson with an angry expression. "Ma'am, I need you to step back. This is police business." "But I can verify that he works here," Ms. Peterson insisted. "I've been his colleague for 8 years." "I don't need verification from you," Thompson said rudely. "Anyone can claim to know someone." More teachers began arriving at the school. Mr. Davis parked his car and saw the commotion. Mrs. Garcia, who taught kindergarten, also stopped to see what was happening. They all knew Marcus well and could not understand why a police officer was questioning him. "Officer, what seems to be the problem?" Mr. Davis asked politely. "The problem is that none of you can mind your own business," Thompson replied. He was getting more frustrated as more people arrived. Marcus watched as his colleagues tried to help him. He felt grateful for their support, but he also felt embarrassed. Other teachers were seeing him being treated like a criminal. Some early arriving parents were starting to notice the situation too. "Officer, please," Marcus said. "These people are telling you the truth. I work here. I'm supposed to be here. Can we please resolve this quickly? My students will be arriving soon and I need to be ready for them." Thompson did not like being told what to do. In his mind, Marcus was being difficult and uncooperative. "You're not going anywhere until I say so," Thompson declared. "But why?" Marcus asked. "I've shown you my identification. My colleagues have verified who I am. What more do you need?" "I need you to stop asking questions and do what I tell you," Thompson replied angrily. The situation was getting worse instead of better. Marcus could not understand why showing his identification and having colleagues vouch for him was not enough. He had never experienced anything like this before. As a black man, Marcus knew that some people might judge him unfairly, but he had never expected to be treated this way at his own workplace. More cars were arriving in the parking lot. Parents were dropping off children for early morning programs. Some of them stopped to watch what was happening. Marcus felt humiliated. This was supposed to be a normal morning at the school where he had worked peacefully for 15 years. "Officer," Marcus said one more time, "I really think there's been a misunderstanding. Maybe we should call the principal to sort this out." Thompson's face grew red with anger. "Are you resisting my investigation?" he asked loudly. "No, sir," Marcus replied quickly. "I'm just trying to understand what I've done wrong." "What you've done wrong is act suspicious around a school," Thompson said. "And now you're being uncooperative with a police officer." Marcus realized that nothing he said was going to satisfy this officer. The situation was spiraling out of control and he did not know how to stop it. The parking lot at Lincoln Elementary School was filling up with more cars. Teachers, staff members, and parents were arriving for the start of another school day. But instead of the usual calm morning routine, everyone was watching a tense confrontation between Officer Thompson and Marcus Williams. Thompson was becoming more aggressive with each passing minute. He had decided that Marcus was lying about being a teacher, and nothing anyone said would change his mind. In Thompson's experience, people who hung around schools early in the morning were usually up to no good. He had convinced himself that he was protecting the children from a dangerous person. "I want to know exactly why you're here," Thompson demanded, pointing his finger at Marcus. "And don't give me that teacher story again." Marcus took a deep breath and tried to remain calm. He could see that more people were watching now. Some parents had stopped their cars and were looking out their windows. A few children who had arrived early for breakfast were pressing their faces against the school windows, trying to see what was happening. "Officer, I've already explained this to you several times," Marcus said patiently. "I'm a third-grade teacher. I arrive early every morning to prepare my classroom. I have identification, keys to the building, and several colleagues who can verify who I am. Those could all be fake, Thompson replied stubbornly. I've seen criminals use fake IDs before. They steal them or make copies. Ms. Peterson stepped forward again. She was getting frustrated with the officer's behavior. Officer, this is ridiculous, she said. Mr. Williams has been teaching here longer than I have. I see him every single day. He's one of our most respected teachers. Ma'am, I already told you to step back, Thompson said harshly. This doesn't concern you. It does concern me, Ms. Peterson replied firmly. This is my workplace, and Mr. Williams is my colleague. You're treating him like a criminal for no reason. By now, 6 other teachers had gathered around the scene. They all knew Marcus well and were shocked by what they were seeing. Mrs. Garcia spoke up next. Officer, I've worked with Marcus for 10 years, she said. He teaches my daughter in his after-school tutoring program. He's a wonderful teacher and a good man. Mr. Davis nodded in agreement. Marcus won Teacher of the Year 3 times, he added. The whole community knows him. There's obviously been some kind of mistake. Thompson was getting angry with all the people defending Marcus. In his mind, they were interfering with his investigation. All of you need to move away right now, he ordered. I'm conducting official police business. What kind of police business? Asked Mr. Rodriguez, who taught 5th grade. What crime do you think he committed? He's trespassing on school property, Thompson declared. The teachers looked at each other in disbelief. Trespassing? Ms. Peterson repeated. He works here. How can someone trespass at their own workplace? Anyone can claim to work somewhere, Thompson replied. I need real proof. We are real proof, Mrs. Garcia said. 7 teachers are telling you that he works here. What more proof do you need? Thompson was running out of patience. He had never had so many people question his authority before. Usually, when he told people to do something, they obeyed without argument. These teachers were making him look bad in front of the growing crowd. Marcus could see that the situation was getting worse. He decided to try a different approach. Officer, would it help if I called the principal? She can confirm everything these teachers are telling you. Don't try to tell me how to do my job, Thompson snapped. I decide who gets called and when. I'm not trying to tell you how to do your job, Marcus replied calmly. I'm just trying to resolve this misunderstanding. The only misunderstanding here is you thinking you can fool me, Thompson said loudly. More parents were arriving and stopping to watch. Some of them recognized Marcus as their children's former teacher, or as someone they had seen at school events. A few parents got out of their cars and walked closer to see what was happening. Mrs. Brown, whose son had been in Marcus's class 2 years ago, spoke up. Officer, that's Mr. Williams, she said. He taught my son. He's an excellent teacher. And my daughter too, added Mr. Johnson. What's going on here? Thompson spun around to face the parents. Everyone needs to stay back and let me do my job, he commanded. But the parents were confused and concerned. They knew Marcus as a kind, caring teacher who had helped their children learn and grow. Seeing him being treated like a criminal made no sense to them. Officer, there must be some mistake, Mrs. Brown insisted. Mr. Williams belongs here. That's not for you to decide, Thompson replied rudely. Marcus felt terrible that his situation was disrupting everyone's morning. Parents were worried, teachers were upset, and children were watching through the windows. All he had wanted to do was prepare for another day of teaching. Officer, please, Marcus said quietly. Look around you. All these people know me. They're telling you the truth. I really am a teacher here. I don't care how many people you have fooled, Thompson replied. I know what I see. What exactly do you see? Asked Ms. Peterson, who was getting more frustrated by the minute. I see a suspicious person who was trying to break into a school, Thompson answered. He wasn't breaking in, Mr. Davis exclaimed. He used his own keys to unlock the door. Keys that were probably stolen, Thompson replied. The crowd was growing larger. More teachers, parents, and staff members were arriving and stopping to see what was happening. The school custodian, Mr. Martinez, had also come outside. He had worked at the school for 20 years and knew Marcus very well. Officer, what's the problem? Mr. Martinez asked. That's Mr. Williams. He's been coming here every morning for years. How do you know him? Thompson demanded. I've been the custodian here for 20 years, Mr. Martinez explained. I see Mr. Williams every single morning. He always arrives early to set up his classroom. Thompson was getting overwhelmed by all the people defending Marcus. But instead of reconsidering his position, he became more determined to prove he was right. In his mind, all these people were either being fooled by Marcus or were part of some kind of conspiracy. "I don't care what any of you say," Thompson declared loudly. "This man is suspicious, and I'm going to treat him as a threat until I can prove otherwise." Marcus felt his heart sinking. No amount of evidence seemed to matter to this officer. His identification, his keys, his colleagues' testimonies, and the parents' recognition meant nothing. Marcus began to realize that this situation might not end well. "Officer," Marcus said one last time, "I'm asking you respectfully to please call the principal. Her name is Mrs. Martinez. She can settle this immediately." "Stop trying to control this situation," Thompson replied angrily. "You're being uncooperative and resistant." "I'm not being resistant," Marcus protested. "I'm trying to help you understand that there's been a mistake." "The only mistake here is you thinking you can outsmart me," Thompson said. At that moment, Thompson made a decision that would change everything. He reached for his handcuffs. The sound of metal handcuffs jangling in Officer Thompson's hands sent a wave of shock through the crowd. Everyone watching could not believe what they were seeing. Marcus Williams, a respected teacher who had dedicated 15 years of his life to educating children, was about to be arrested for simply arriving at work. "Officer, you can't be serious," Ms. Peterson said, her voice filled with disbelief. Thompson ignored her and looked directly at Marcus. "Turn around and put your hands behind your back," he commanded. Marcus felt like he was in a bad dream. This could not really be happening. "Officer, please think about what you're doing," he said. "I haven't committed any crime. All I did was come to work. You're trespassing and now you're resisting arrest." Thompson replied firmly. "Turn around now or I'll have to use force." The teachers and parents watching were horrified. Several people pulled out their cell phones and started recording what was happening. They knew this was wrong and they wanted to document it. "This is insane," Mr. Davis said loudly. "You're arresting an innocent man." "Everyone stay back," Thompson warned the crowd. "Don't interfere with police business." Marcus looked around at all the people who knew him and supported him. He saw the shock and anger on their faces. He also saw some of his students who had arrived early, pressing their faces against the classroom windows, watching their beloved teacher being treated like a criminal. "Officer, please don't do this in front of the children," Marcus pleaded. "They don't understand what's happening. You should have thought about that before you decided to break the law." Thompson replied coldly. Marcus knew he had two choices. He could try to resist and make the situation even worse, or he could cooperate and hope that someone with authority would soon arrive to fix this terrible mistake. Marcus chose to cooperate. He slowly turned around and put his hands behind his back. The crowd watched in stunned silence as Thompson placed the handcuffs on Marcus's wrists. The metal was cold and tight against his skin. Marcus had never been handcuffed before in his life. He felt humiliated and confused, but he tried to maintain his dignity. "This is wrong," Mrs. Garcia said, tears forming in her eyes.
"He's a good man. Someone needs to call Mrs. Martinez right now," Ms. Peterson said urgently. Mr. Rodriguez was already dialing the principal's number on his cell phone.
"I'm calling her now," he said. Thompson began walking Marcus toward his police car. With each step, Marcus felt more embarrassed. Parents and children were watching him being led away in handcuffs. These were people who respected him, people who trusted him with their children's education. "Mr. Williams," called out little Sarah Chen, a third grader who had been in Marcus's class the year before. She was arriving early for the breakfast program and saw what was happening. "Why is that policeman being mean to you?" Marcus's heart broke hearing the confusion in the child's voice. "It's okay, Sarah," he said gently. "There's just been a misunderstanding." "Don't talk to the children," Thompson ordered. "Keep walking." Mrs. Brown, Sarah's mother, was furious. "Officer, you're traumatizing these children," she said. "They don't understand why their favorite teacher is being arrested." "That's not my problem," Thompson replied without emotion. As they reached the police car, Thompson opened the back door. This was the moment that made everything feel completely real for Marcus. He was actually being arrested. In a few minutes, he would be sitting in the back of a police car like a common criminal. "Watch your head," Thompson said as he guided Marcus into the back seat. Marcus sat down on the hard plastic seat. The handcuffs made it impossible to sit comfortably. Through the window, he could see all the people who were fighting for him. Teachers, parents, and staff members were gathered around. many of them crying or shaking their heads in disbelief. Ms. Peterson ran up to the car window. "Marcus, we're going to fix this," she said. "Mrs. Martinez is on her way. This will all be sorted out soon." Thompson slammed the car door shut, cutting off Marcus's ability to respond. Inside the police car, Marcus felt completely alone. The sounds from outside were muffled. He could see people's mouths moving, but he could barely hear what they were saying. At that moment, Mrs. Martinez's car came speeding into the parking lot. She had received Mr. Rodriguez's phone call and had driven to school as fast as she could. Mrs. Martinez was a strong woman who had been principal of Lincoln Elementary for 8 years. She cared deeply about her teachers and students. Mrs. Martinez jumped out of her car and ran toward the police vehicle. When she saw Marcus sitting in the back seat in handcuffs, she was shocked and outraged. "Officer, what is the meaning of this?" she demanded, her voice filled with authority. Thompson turned to face the principal. "Ma'am, I've arrested a trespasser who was trying to break into your school." "Trespasser?" Mrs. Martinez repeated in disbelief. "That's Marcus Williams. He's one of my teachers. He's been working here for 15 years. So everyone keeps telling me," Thompson replied. "But I have reason to believe he's lying about his identity." Mrs. Martinez could not believe what she was hearing. "Officer, I hired Mr. Williams myself. I've worked with him for 8 years. I know exactly who he is. How can you be sure?" Thompson asked stubbornly. Mrs. Martinez was getting more angry by the second. "Because I'm the principal of this school and he's my employee. I have his employment records in my office. I can show you his teaching certificate, his background check, and his performance evaluations." "Anyone can fake documents," Thompson insisted. Mrs. Martinez stared at the officer in amazement. "Are you seriously suggesting that Mr. Williams somehow faked 15 years of employment records? Fooled every teacher and staff member at this school, and tricked hundreds of parents and students into believing he's a teacher?" Thompson was starting to realize that his position was becoming harder to defend, but he was too proud to admit he had made a mistake. "I'm just being thorough," he said. "You're being ridiculous," Mrs. Martinez replied firmly. "Release Mr. Williams immediately." "I can't do that," Thompson said. "He's been arrested for trespassing and resisting arrest." "Resisting arrest?" Mrs. Martinez repeated. "What did he resist?" "He was uncooperative and tried to tell me how to do my job," Thompson explained. Mrs. Martinez looked around at all the witnesses. Every single person was telling the same story. Marcus had done nothing wrong except arrive at work early, just like he did every morning. The officer had simply refused to believe that a black man could be a teacher at the school. "Officer, I'm ordering you to release my teacher right now," Mrs. Martinez said with authority. "You can't order me to do anything," Thompson replied. "This is a police matter now." Inside the police car, Marcus could see Mrs. Martinez arguing with the officer. He felt grateful that his boss was fighting for him, but he also felt terrible that this situation had gotten so out of control. All around the parking lot, more people were arriving and stopping to see what was happening. The local news had even been called by some of the parents. A news van was pulling into the parking lot. This embarrassing situation was about to become very public. Marcus closed his eyes and tried to stay calm. He knew that the truth would eventually come out, but he wondered how much damage would be done to his reputation and his relationship with the community before this nightmare ended. News of Marcus Williams's arrest spread through Lincoln Elementary School and the surrounding community like wildfire. By 9 a.m., less than 2 hours after the incident, everyone seemed to know what had happened. Parents were calling other parents. Teachers were texting their friends. Students were confused and upset about seeing their favorite teacher being taken away in handcuffs. The local news station, Channel 7, had received a tip from one of the parents who witnessed the arrest. Reporter Jennifer Clark arrived at the school with her camera crew, just as Officer Thompson was driving away with Marcus in the back of his police car. She immediately began interviewing the teachers and parents who had seen everything happen. "It was completely outrageous," Ms. Peterson told the reporter. "Mr. Williams is one of the most respected teachers in our district. He's been working here for 15 years. The officer refused to believe his identification or listen to any of us who vouched for him." Mrs. Garcia was still crying when she spoke to the camera. "Those children love Mr. Williams," she said. "He's like a father figure to many of them. Seeing him arrested traumatized them. They don't understand why someone would treat their teacher like a criminal." Principal Martinez was furious about the whole situation. She spoke to the reporter with controlled anger in her voice. "This was a clear case of racial profiling," she said. "Mr. Williams was targeted simply because he's a black man who arrived early at the school. The officer had no reasonable suspicion of any crime. At the police station, Marcus was processed like any other arrestee. His fingerprints were taken and he was photographed. The booking officer who handled his paperwork seemed confused about the charges." "Trespassing at a school where you work?" the officer asked Thompson. "Are you sure about this?" "I'm sure," Thompson replied defensively. He was acting suspicious. "But he had keys and identification," the booking officer pointed out. "Anyone can get fake keys and fake IDs," Thompson insisted. The booking officer shrugged and continued with the paperwork. Marcus was placed in a holding cell to wait for his release. He sat on the hard bench and thought about his students who would be arriving at school soon, expecting to see him in their classroom. Instead, they would find a substitute teacher who knew nothing about their ongoing projects and lessons. Back at the school, Mrs. Martinez was making phone calls to the district office and the school board. She wanted everyone in authority to know what had happened and to understand that Marcus had done absolutely nothing wrong. "Superintendent Johnson," she said into the phone, "we have a serious situation here. One of our best teachers was arrested this morning for no reason other than the color of his skin." Superintendent Johnson was shocked. "Tell me exactly what happened," he said. Mrs. Martinez explained the entire incident in detail. She told him about Officer Thompson's refusal to accept Marcus's identification, the testimonies of multiple teachers and parents, and the traumatic effect the arrest had on the children who witnessed it. "This is unacceptable," Superintendent Johnson said. "I'm calling the police chief immediately." While Mrs. Martinez was dealing with the administrative response, the news story was spreading beyond the local community. Social media was buzzing with outrage about the arrest. Someone had posted a video of Marcus being handcuffed, and it was being shared thousands of times. The hashtag, #JusticeForMarcus, began trending on Twitter. People from all over the country were commenting on the injustice of arresting a teacher for arriving at work. Civil rights organizations were taking notice and preparing to get involved. At the police station, Police Chief Robert Davis was having an emergency meeting with his supervisors. They had all seen the news report and were concerned about the department's reputation. Chief Davis called Officer Thompson into his office. "Thompson, explain to me exactly what happened this morning," Chief Davis demanded. Thompson told his version of the story, but it sounded weak even to him. "I saw a suspicious person entering the school building early in the morning," he said. "When I questioned him, he became uncooperative." "Did he show you identification?" Chief Davis asked. "Yes, but I believed it could be fake," Thompson replied. "Did other people verify his identity?" Chief Davis continued. "Several people claimed to know him, but they could have been lying," Thompson said. Chief Davis was getting frustrated. "Thompson, did you even try to verify his story? Did you call the school? Did you check with the principal?" Thompson looked uncomfortable. "I felt the situation required immediate action," he said. "The situation required you to use your brain," Chief Davis replied angrily. "You arrested a man for going to work. Do you realize how this makes our department look?" Meanwhile, Marcus's wife Sarah had heard about the arrest from Mrs. Martinez, who had called her immediately. Sarah rushed to the police station, her mind racing with worry and confusion. She could not understand how her husband could be arrested for going to his job. At the police station, Sarah demanded to see her husband. "I want to see Marcus Williams," she told the desk sergeant. "He's my husband and he was wrongfully arrested." "Ma'am, you'll have to wait until processing is complete," the sergeant replied. "Processing for what?" Sarah asked angrily. "He didn't commit any crime. He's a school teacher who was going to work." The desk sergeant had heard about the case and felt sympathetic. "Ma'am, I understand your frustration. We're working to resolve this situation as quickly as possible." Back at the school, parents were arriving to pick up their children early. Many of them were upset and wanted to show their support for Marcus. They gathered in the school parking lot, holding signs that said "Free Mr. Williams" and "Stop Racial Profiling." 8-year-old Tommy Rodriguez, one of Marcus's current students, was crying in the hallway. "Where is Mr. Williams?" he asked his substitute teacher. "Why isn't he here?" The substitute teacher, Mrs. Adams, did not know how to explain the situation to the children. Mr. Williams had to take care of something important today, she said gently. He'll be back soon. But Tommy was not satisfied with that answer. Did the police take him away because he's black? He asked innocently. Mrs. Adams was shocked by the child's question. The fact that an 8-year-old could understand the racial element of what had happened showed how obvious the injustice was. By noon, the story had been picked up by national news outlets. CNN, Fox News, and MSNBC were all covering the arrest of the teacher who was detained for arriving at work. The story was being framed as another example of racial profiling and police misconduct. Civil rights attorney Maria Santos saw the news coverage and immediately called Mrs. Martinez. I want to represent Mr. Williams, she said. This is exactly the kind of case that needs to be challenged. Thank you, Mrs. Martinez replied. Mr. Williams is a good man who doesn't deserve this treatment. At 2:30 p.m., nearly 7 hours after his arrest, Marcus was finally released from jail. The charges had been dropped after Chief Davis reviewed the body camera footage from Officer Thompson's uniform. The footage clearly showed that Marcus had been cooperative and had provided proper identification. Marcus walked out of the police station to find his wife Sarah waiting for him, along with several colleagues and dozens of community supporters. Reporters and cameras were everywhere, documenting his release. How do you feel, Mr. Williams? One reporter asked. Marcus was tired and emotionally drained, but he tried to remain dignified. I feel grateful for the support of my colleagues, my students' families, and my community, he said. This has been a difficult day, but I believe justice will prevail. Sarah hugged her husband tightly. I'm so sorry this happened to you, she whispered. It's not your fault, Marcus replied, and it's not mine either. As Marcus got into his car to go home, he could see the crowd of supporters cheering and holding signs. Their support meant everything to him, but he knew that this incident would have lasting effects on his life and his career. The investigation into Officer Thompson's conduct was just beginning, and the community was demanding answers about how such an obvious injustice could have occurred. 3 days after Marcus Williams's arrest, the Lincoln School District called an emergency meeting of the school board. The incident had created a storm of controversy that was affecting the entire district. Parents were angry, teachers were demanding action, and the media was asking tough questions about racial bias in the community. The school board meeting was scheduled for 7 p.m. at the district office. By 6:30 p.m., the parking lot was completely full. Cars lined the streets for blocks around the building. Inside, the meeting room was packed with over 200 people. Parents, teachers, students, and community members had come to demand justice for Marcus. The 5 members of the school board sat at a long table facing the crowd. Board President Jennifer Chen was a lawyer who had served on the board for 6 years. Vice President Robert Martinez was a local business owner. The other members were Dr. Angela Foster, a retired educator, James Wilson, an engineer, and Patricia Lee, a nurse. Jennifer Chen called the meeting to order at exactly 7 p.m. We are here tonight to address the incident involving Mr. Marcus Williams that occurred at Lincoln Elementary School 3 days ago, she announced. The crowd was restless and emotional. Many people were holding signs supporting Marcus. Some had pictures of him with their children from school events and activities over the years. Before we begin, Chen continued, I want everyone to know that we have reviewed all the available information about this incident. We have spoken with Principal Martinez, the teachers who witnessed the event, and the parents who were present. Mrs. Brown, whose son had been in Marcus's class, stood up to speak during the public comment period. Mr. Williams taught my son how to read, she said, her voice shaking with emotion. Before his class, Tommy struggled with words. Mr. Williams stayed after school every day for 3 weeks to help him. Now Tommy loves reading. That's the kind of teacher and person Mr. Williams is. The crowd applauded loudly. One by one, parents came forward to share their stories about Marcus. They talked about how he had helped their children overcome learning difficulties, how he had attended their family events, and how he had made a positive difference in their lives. Mr. Rodriguez spoke about how Marcus had tutored his daughter for free when the family could not afford extra help. Mr. Williams saw that Maria was struggling with math, he said. He offered to help her after school without asking for any payment. Thanks to him, she passed her grade level tests. Even some of Marcus's former students now in high school came to speak. 16-year-old Ashley Johnson had been in Marcus's 3rd grade class 7 years ago. Mr. Williams changed my life, she said. I was a shy kid who was afraid to speak in class. He helped me find my confidence. I'm now student body president at my high school. After an hour of public comments, all praising Marcus and condemning his arrest, the school board members huddled together to discuss their response. The crowd waited anxiously to hear what action would be taken. Some community members were worried that the school board might try to distance themselves from the controversy. In other similar cases around the country, school districts had sometimes remained silent or given weak responses to avoid conflict with local police departments. Dr. Foster whispered to her fellow board members, "We need to take a strong stand here. This man has given 15 years of his life to our children." James Wilson nodded in agreement. "The evidence is overwhelming. Mr. Williams did nothing wrong." Patricia Lee added, "If we don't support him now, how can we expect our teachers to trust us?" After 15 minutes of discussion, Jennifer Chen stood up to address the crowd. The room became completely silent. Everyone was waiting to hear whether the school board would support Marcus or try to avoid taking sides. "Ladies and gentlemen," Chen began, "the school board has reached a unanimous decision regarding the treatment of Mr. Marcus Williams." The tension in the room was thick. Parents held their breath. Teachers leaned forward in their seats. "First," Chen continued, "we want to state clearly and without any doubt that Mr. Marcus Williams is an exemplary teacher and human being. He has served our children and our community with distinction for 15 years. The crowd began to murmur with approval. But Chen raised her hand for silence. "Second, we want to state clearly that Mr. Williams was wrongfully arrested. He committed no crime. He was simply arriving at work to do the job he loves and does exceptionally well." Now the crowd was getting excited, but Chen was not finished. "Third, we condemn in the strongest possible terms the treatment that Mr. Williams received. No teacher, no employee, and no human being should be subjected to such humiliation and injustice." The applause started, but Chen spoke louder to continue. "Fourth, we want Mr. Williams to know that this school board stands behind him 100%. We support him completely and without reservation." The crowd erupted in cheers and applause. People were standing up and clapping. Some were crying tears of relief and joy, but Jennifer Chen was still not finished. She waited for the crowd to quiet down before delivering the most surprising part of the board's response. "Finally," she said, "the school board has voted unanimously to take immediate action to ensure that nothing like this ever happens again to any of our employees." The room became silent again as people waited to hear what specific actions would be taken. "Effective immediately," Chen announced, "the Lincoln School District is hiring civil rights attorney Maria Santos to pursue legal action against the police department and Officer Thompson for their treatment of Mr. Williams." The crowd gasped in surprise. They had hoped for support, but they had not expected the school board to actually fight back against the police department. Chen continued, "We are also implementing new security protocols to protect our staff members from harassment. Any police officer who wishes to question a district employee on school property must first check with the principal and follow proper procedures." Robert Martinez, the board's vice president, stood up to add his comments. "We want to send a clear message," he said. "Our teachers are valuable professionals who deserve respect. We will not tolerate anyone treating them as criminals." Dr. Foster also spoke. "Mr. Williams has touched hundreds of lives during his career with us," she said. "Students who couldn't read are now honor students. Children who felt lost have found their way. That's what a great teacher does, and that's what Mr. Williams has done every single day." The crowd was amazed by the strength of the school board's response. Many people had expected a weak statement expressing general concern. Instead, they got a full-throated defense of Marcus and a promise to fight for justice. Mrs. Peterson, Marcus's colleague, was in tears. "I can't believe they're actually going to sue the police department," she said to Mr. Davis, who was sitting next to her. "This is exactly what needed to happen," Mr. Davis replied. "Someone needed to stand up and say this was wrong." Jennifer Chen concluded the board's statement with a personal message. "Mr. Williams, we know you're watching this meeting from home," she said, looking directly into the television camera. "We want you to know that your school board family has your back. We will fight for you just as hard as you have fought for our children." The meeting ended with a standing ovation that lasted for 5 full minutes. As people filed out of the building, they were talking excitedly about the board's unexpected strong response. Outside in the parking lot, Parents and teachers were hugging each other and crying. Many of them had been worried that Marcus would be abandoned by the district, but instead he was being defended and protected. Sarah Williams, Marcus's wife, had watched the meeting on television from her living room. She immediately called her husband, who had been too emotionally drained to attend the meeting in person. "Marcus, did you see what just happened?" she asked excitedly. "I saw it," Marcus replied, his voice filled with emotion. "I can't believe they're actually going to fight for me." "They love you just as much as the kids do," Sarah said. "Everyone can see what kind of person you are." For the first time since his arrest, Marcus felt hopeful that justice might actually be possible. The morning after the school board meeting, Marcus Williams woke up to find his phone buzzing with dozens of messages. News of the school board's strong defense had spread across social media and national news outlets overnight. People from all over the country were praising the Lincoln School District for taking such a bold stand. Marcus sat at his kitchen table with his wife Sarah, reading through the messages of support. There were texts from former students who were now adults, emails from teachers in other states, and social media posts from complete strangers who had heard his story. "Honey, look at this," Sarah said, showing him her laptop screen. The story is on the front page of CNN's website. The headline read, "School Board Fights Back After Teacher Wrongfully Arrested." Below it was a picture of Marcus in his classroom, surrounded by smiling students. Marcus felt overwhelmed by all the attention, but also grateful for the support. "I never expected anything like this," he said. "I just wanted to go to work and teach my kids." At the Lincoln School District office, Superintendent Johnson was fielding phone calls from reporters and other school districts. Many were asking about the board's decision to hire a civil rights attorney and sue the police department. "We felt we had no choice," Superintendent Johnson told a reporter from the Washington Post. "Mr. Williams is not just an employee, he's family. When someone attacks a member of our family, we defend them." Civil rights attorney Maria Santos had arrived in town the night before and was already working on the case. She had reviewed the body camera footage from Officer Thompson and interviewed several witnesses. The evidence was overwhelming that Marcus had been treated unfairly. "This is one of the clearest cases of racial profiling I've ever seen," Santos told the local newspaper. Mr. Williams was targeted for no reason other than his race. The officer ignored multiple forms of identification and the testimony of numerous witnesses. At the police station, Officer Thompson was feeling the pressure. Chief Davis had placed him on administrative leave pending a full investigation. Thompson's fellow officers were avoiding him, and he was beginning to realize that his actions had created a major crisis for the department. Thompson met with his union representative and a lawyer to discuss his situation. "The body camera footage doesn't look good," his lawyer admitted. "The man clearly identified himself as a teacher and had proper credentials." "I was just doing my job," Thompson insisted. "I thought he looked suspicious." "Suspicious how?" his lawyer asked. "Because he was black?" Thompson remained silent, knowing that anything he said could make his situation worse. Meanwhile, at Lincoln Elementary School, Marcus's third-grade classroom had become a symbol of the community's support. Students, parents, and teachers had filled the room with flowers, cards, and letters. The substitute teacher, Mrs. Adams, was struggling to keep up with all the well-wishers who wanted to leave messages for Marcus. 8-year-old Tommy Rodriguez had made a card with crayon drawings of Marcus and his students. The card said, "Mr. Williams is the best teacher ever. Come back soon." Tommy's mother, Mrs. Rodriguez, had tears in her eyes when she saw her son's artwork. "My son keeps asking when Mr. Williams is coming back," she told Mrs. Adams. "He doesn't understand why his teacher was taken away." The children's innocence and confusion about the situation made the injustice even more heartbreaking for the adults involved. These young students only knew Marcus as their kind, caring teacher who helped them learn and grow. Dr. Angela Foster, the school board member and retired educator, visited the school that afternoon to see the outpouring of support. She was amazed by the hundreds of cards and letters that had arrived from around the country. "I've been in education for 35 years, Dr. Foster told Principal Martinez, "and I've never seen anything like this. The love and respect people have for this man is extraordinary." Principal Martinez nodded in agreement. "Marcus has that effect on people," she said. "He doesn't just teach children, he inspires them." That evening, the school board held another meeting to provide updates on their legal action. Attorney Maria Santos presented her preliminary findings to the board and the public. Based on my investigation, Santos reported, Officer Thompson had no reasonable suspicion to detain Mr. Williams. The body camera footage shows that Mr. Williams was cooperative, polite, and provided proper identification. The officer's behavior was clearly motivated by racial bias. Santos then surprised everyone with additional information she had uncovered. I've also discovered that Officer Thompson has a history of complaints involving racial profiling. This was not an isolated incident. The crowd in the meeting room gasped. Board President Jennifer Chen asked Santos to elaborate. Over the past 3 years, Santos explained, Officer Thompson has been the subject of 7 complaints alleging racial profiling. 5 of those complaints involve black citizens who were questioned or detained without reasonable cause. This revelation added a new dimension to the case. It showed that Thompson's treatment of Marcus was part of a pattern of discriminatory behavior. This information will be crucial to our lawsuit, Santos continued. It demonstrates that the police department should have been aware of Officer Thompson's bias and taken action to prevent incidents like this. James Wilson, one of the school board members, raised his hand to ask a question. What kind of damages are we seeking in the lawsuit? Santos smiled. We're not just seeking monetary compensation, although that will be part of it. We're demanding comprehensive reforms to police training and accountability measures. We want to make sure this never happens to anyone else. The crowd applauded enthusiastically. Many community members had been hoping that the case would lead to broader changes in police practices. Dr. Foster stood up to make an additional announcement. The school board has also decided to establish the Marcus Williams Excellence in Teaching Award, she said. This annual award will recognize teachers who go above and beyond for their students, just as Mr. Williams has done throughout his career. The crowd was deeply moved by this gesture. Naming an award after Marcus while he was still actively teaching was a powerful statement of support. Patricia Lee, another board member, added, We're also creating a fund to support teachers who face discrimination or harassment. No educator should have to fight these battles alone. As the meeting concluded, many people in the audience were wiping away tears. The school board had not only defended Marcus, they had turned his painful experience into an opportunity to create lasting positive change. Outside the meeting, Mrs. Brown spoke to a reporter about her feelings. I'm so proud of our school board, she said. They didn't just give us empty words. They're actually fighting for what's right. Mr. Davis, Marcus's teaching colleague, was equally impressed. This is leadership, he said. This is what it looks like when people in power use their position to protect the vulnerable. Back at home, Marcus watched highlights of the meeting on the evening news. He was amazed and humbled by the lengths the school board was going to support him. They're risking a lot for me, he told Sarah. Going up against the police department takes courage. They're doing what's right, Sarah replied, and they know that you would do the same for any of them. Marcus nodded, feeling grateful but also aware of the responsibility that came with all this support. His case was now bigger than just his own experience. It had become a symbol of the fight against racial injustice, and he was determined to be worthy of the trust people had placed in him. 6 months after his wrongful arrest, Marcus Williams stood in front of his 3rd grade classroom, watching his students work quietly on their math problems. It was hard to believe that so much had changed since that terrible morning, when Officer Thompson had handcuffed him in the school parking lot. The legal case had moved quickly through the courts. Attorney Maria Santos had built such a strong case that the police department chose to settle rather than go to trial. Officer Thompson had been fired from the police force and was required to attend extensive bias training before he could work in law enforcement again. The settlement included a formal apology from the police department and a significant financial compensation for Marcus. But more importantly, it required the police department to implement new training programs and accountability measures to prevent similar incidents in the future. Police Chief Davis had retired early, and the new chief, Maria Rodriguez, was committed to rebuilding trust between the police and the community. She had personally apologized to Marcus and invited him to help train officers about interacting respectfully with community members. Mr. Williams, she had said during their meeting, we want to learn from our mistakes. Your experience can help us become better police officers. Marcus had agreed to participate in the training program. It was not easy for him to face police officers after what he had experienced, but he believed it was important to help create positive change. The first training session had been emotional. Marcus stood in front of 30 police officers and told them about his arrest. He explained how it felt to be treated like a criminal for simply going to work. Some of the officers had tears in their eyes as they listened to his story. "I don't hate police officers," Marcus had told them. "I respect the difficult job you do. But I need you to see me as a human being, not as a threat. I need you to remember that I'm someone's husband, someone's father, and someone who has dedicated his life to helping children." The training program had been so successful that other police departments around the country were asking to implement similar programs. Marcus found himself traveling to different cities to share his story and help train officers. Back at Lincoln Elementary School, things had returned to normal, but with some important changes. The school board had implemented new security protocols to protect staff members. They had also created a partnership with the local NACP to provide diversity training for all school district employees. The Marcus Williams Excellence in Teaching Award had been established, and the first recipient was Ms. Peterson, Marcus's colleague who had stood up for him during his arrest. The award came with a $5,000 prize and recognition at a special ceremony. Marcus's classroom had become a place of pilgrimage for educators from around the world. Teachers would visit to see how he had created such a positive learning environment for his students. Marcus was always happy to share his methods and philosophy with other educators. "Teaching is about love," he would tell visiting teachers. "If you love your students, they will learn. If you believe in them, they will believe in themselves." The children in Marcus's class had grown and learned tremendously throughout the year. Tommy Rodriguez, who had been so upset by his teacher's arrest, was now reading at a 5th grade level. Ashley Chen had overcome her shyness and was giving presentations to the whole class. "Mr. Williams makes learning fun," Tommy told a reporter who visited the classroom. "He helps us when we don't understand something and he never gets mad at us." The incident had brought the community closer together. Parents who had never spoken to each other before had become friends after standing together to support Marcus. The school had become a symbol of unity and justice. Sarah Williams was proud of how her husband had handled the entire situation. "You turned something terrible into something beautiful," she told him one evening as they sat on their porch. "I had a lot of help," Marcus replied. "The school board, the parents, the teachers, even people I've never met all stood up for what was right." Marcus had been invited to speak at education conferences and civil rights events across the country. He always used these opportunities to talk about the importance of supporting teachers and fighting against discrimination. At one particularly moving speech at a national education conference, Marcus said, "What happened to me was wrong, but it led to something good. It showed that when communities come together, they can create positive change. It proved that love is stronger than hate." The audience gave him a standing ovation that lasted for several minutes. Officer Thompson, meanwhile, had struggled to find work after being fired. The bias training he was required to attend had opened his eyes to his own prejudices. He eventually wrote a letter of apology to Marcus, acknowledging that his actions had been wrong and motivated by racial bias. Marcus had surprised everyone by agreeing to meet with Thompson face-to-face. The meeting, which took place at a community center with mediators present, was emotional for both men. "I'm sorry," Thompson had said, tears in his eyes. "I was wrong about you and I'm ashamed of how I treated you." Marcus had listened carefully before responding. "I forgive you," he said, "but I hope you understand the damage that was done. It wasn't just about me. It was about every child who saw their teacher treated like a criminal." Thompson nodded. "I understand now," he said. "I want to do better." The meeting had been filmed and was later used as part of police training programs around the country. A year after the incident, Lincoln Elementary School held a special celebration in Marcus's honor. The entire community came together to recognize his 15 years of service and his grace in handling the injustice he had faced. Hundreds of former students, now teenagers and young adults, returned to thank Marcus for the impact he had made on their lives. Ashley Johnson, who was now in college studying to become a teacher herself, spoke on behalf of all his former students. "Mr. Williams taught us more than reading and math," she said. "He taught us about dignity, perseverance, and standing up for what's right. He showed us that one person can make a difference. The governor of the state presented Marcus with a special award for his contributions to education and civil rights. The mayor declared the day Marcus Williams Day in the city. But the moment that meant the most to Marcus came when his current students surprised him with a special song they had written about their teacher. As 25 third graders sang about how much they loved him, Marcus had to wipe away tears. "Thank you for standing by me," Marcus told the crowd at the end of the celebration. "Thank you for showing me what a community can accomplish when it comes together for justice." As Marcus looked out at the sea of faces, students, parents, colleagues, and friends, he felt overwhelmed with gratitude. What had started as the worst day of his professional life had become a catalyst for positive change that would last for generations. The little boy who had grown up in the same community and dreamed of becoming a teacher had not only achieved his dream, but had also become a symbol of hope and justice. Marcus Williams knew that his real work was just beginning, and he was ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. In his classroom the next Monday morning, Marcus wrote a new message on the whiteboard for his students. "Today is a new day full of possibilities. Let's make it count." 25 excited third graders settled into their seats, ready to learn from the teacher who had shown them that standing up for what's right is always worth it, no matter how difficult it might be.